Hello social media friends and colleagues. Today we are here at Network of Champions and we got two phenomenal speakers. We have a senator and we have a city councilman, and both of these gentlemen, they have contributed so much to our community that we are honored to have them here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Councilman?
Sure, absolutely. Amado, thanks for having me here today, being in Moreno Valley early Tuesday morning. My name's Ryan Hutchison. I'm a city council member in Rancho Cucamonga. I was elected in 2018. It's a wild ride between now, then the coronavirus, the whole thing, and I'm happy to be here to share a little bit about my past, what's worked for me, and the things that I've learned over that time. So thanks for having me.
I love it. Also, I am humbled to have a senator in our midst, someone whom I highly respect and look up to, and someone that really believes in the divine, and someone that is called for bigger things. He's coming up and he's going to be doing a lot of great things. Senator, please, can you talk to us?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I started out in business, in the real estate and the lending business. I had a couple of companies, and then I ran and ended up in the state senate for 10 years, where I turned out 2 years ago. And so thinking about what's next, I'm here today to try to build value into the lives of people in business, as well as political, as well as spiritual. And Armando was kind enough to invite me here, and I'm honored to be here. And Ryan's been a good friend of mine for a number of years. We've worked together and we've helped each other on our elections to try to make our cities and our state better for the free market economy, as well as morality and the future of our children. As Solomon reminds, the duty of a parent is to leave an inheritance to our children's children, and that's why we're all here. So thank you very much, Armando.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Michael. One of the main objectives of Network of Champions now is to do exactly what the word says, network. We want to connect with different professionals. Everyone says you need access to capital. No, you do not need access to capital. You need connections to capital. And that's my primary function of being here. And basically, at Network of Champions, we want to do three things. One is we want to inform. Two, we want to educate. And three, we want to inspire you guys so you guys can go out to the community and really make that contribution that you've been gifted for. So without any further ado, I'd like to ask where's the brother for the invocation? Moses? Oh. Moses has been he's very special to me. First of all, his dad is a pastor, and I've known him for almost 40 years. And he is someone that is very involved and engaged with the development of Moreno Valley. And I'd like to ask him to do the invocation. Moses.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Let's please rise. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity, Lord, for us to come together, Lord, as friends and colleagues. Lord, we humbly ask that you give us understanding, that you give us, Lord, knowledge and wisdom, that we may be able to, Lord, impart that onto our community, and also blessings and resources, Lord. And we ask that you open up our minds, that we may be able to, Lord, help people see you through us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Benny to put the American flag up here, please. And I'm going to ask our veteran, Mr. Danny Ibarra, to come up here and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Danny. Danny is a retired Marine. He's part of our group, and he is someone that loves this nation. Danny.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
You guys ready?
Yep. We're born ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Now I'm going to have someone come on, and if you guys can maintain standing, it's okay. And she's going to sing the national anthem, and that is Tanisha George. She's a friend. Again, her father-in-law's a pastor, very good friend of mine. And she's, well, I'll let you hear, okay? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held, yet the twilight's last gleaming, whose spark stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch, yet so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? For the land of the free and the home of the
Our sound engineer asked that I use this mic. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. Have a seat, please. We have some celebrities amongst us. One of them is my very good friend Genaro and his lovely wife, Carla. If you can stand up, please. We'll give them a big round of applause. They drove down from Mexico to be here. He represents Mercedes-Benz, John Deere, and other entities. I've known him for over 30 years. We've done different deals together. He also represents real estate, a segment there of beachfront property in Baja. So we welcome you and thank you for coming by. And now he wants to take our senator and take him to Mexico. And I said, no, you can't take him. He belongs to us. No, anyways, thank you so much. Have a seat. We also have our mayor, city mayor, Mr. Ulises Cabrera. Let's give him a big, big round of applause. And we also have someone, he's the #1 agent for people helping people, and that's my very good friend Chris and his associate Myra. Let's give them a big, big round of applause. We also have, I don't see Hugo. Hugo, where do I see you? And Jesse, thank you for being part of us. And I have someone that I love dearly, and he made me a father. That's my oldest son, Robert. Robert, love you. And we have Mr. Johnny Martinez, stand up, please. Very good friend. Anytime that I need anything, I just reach out to him. And we have other sponsors, and I will be acknowledging them as we go. I've been speaking in front of groups for all my life, and I've never lost that nervousness, nor do I want to, because when I was talking to the senator, he says, Amado, I get a little nervous. I said, my God, somebody of your caliber, your stature, we have something in common, because I do too. And we both laughed, did a little prayer, and you guys are in for a major, major change. One of the things that I want to do is I want to be an agent of change, and I want to challenge you guys to do the same. You know, in the divine, we don't talk about, government. We talk about self-control, self-dominion. Government starts with you. And I work with families, and one of the things that I found out was that when a kid misbehaves, it's not the kid's problem, it's the parents. So that's why I used to do home buyer seminar, and I shifted. I said, no, I better talk to the people running the country, running the cities, running the businesses. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our Councilman, Ryan Hutchison. Mr. Hutchison, the floor is yours. Come on up. Mr. Hutchison is someone that I listened to him for the first time, and right away I knew I wanted him to be part of our team. He's a young man, very, very driven, and I wanted him also to meet our mayor, someone because the future generations is in their hands, and they're going to do a good job, I promise you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Mayor, thanks for having me in your city. Rancho Cucamonga is your partner. And great to see you all this morning. It is nice and air-conditioned in here. That is one of the highlights so far, that and the carne asada burrito. Thank you so much for whoever helped with that. I've got three kind of parts of the speech that I'm going to give you today. One talks about some of the economics of the Inland Empire, things that I think that real estate professionals and business professionals would like to know. Number two, I'm going to give you just a little glimpse of what's happening in Rancho Cucamonga and how it's going to affect our entire region. And number three, I'm going to talk about my experience, what I've learned, what I've made terrible mistakes on, and what I've done well. There's a lot more mistakes than doing well, but hey, I'm getting better every single day. First thing I'm going to talk about is the Inland Empire. There's about 5 million people now in the Inland Empire. It's a big deal. We are part of the 12th largest metropolitan statistical area in the United States. When I say that, MSA, what I'm talking about is geographic subregions where they study economics, goods, trades, movement, real estate prices, development, and they gauge its growth. And the Inland Empire is the only MSA to grow in the last year. That means that a lot of the other regions that they study, there's people leaving. The Inland Empire, there's people coming to us, which is a really good thing. The Inland Empire is about the size of Ireland on a map. Fun fact for you. When people travel to the Inland Empire from abroad, international travel, they stay for usually about 3.2 days. If they're traveling domestic, they stay for about 2.5 days. We actually have a contingent of people that come overseas, stay in Rancho Cucamonga just to go to Disneyland and spend a day at Victoria Gardens. So that's kind of an interesting stat for you too. There's more logistical jobs in the Inland Empire. There's more logistical jobs in the Inland Empire than the rest of the state of California. And right now, 35% of our workforce commutes to the coast, gets on the Metrolink, gets in their car, and drives to a coastal region for a job. Housing starts, new development and construction, builder confidence has been as low as now it is since the 1980s. So there's a lot of uncertainty out there. I know a lot of real estate professionals, if you ask them to forecast a couple years in the future, they probably either make something up or tell you the honest answer is we probably don't know. And I can tell you that as a real estate agent that got his license in 2004 when he was 18 years old. Another interesting fact for you, going between kind of the years of 2018 to say March, April, May of 2022, last year when interest rates started really climbing, the average mortgage in Rancho Cucamonga was about 4.5%, and people were spending about $3,150 on their mortgage every single month. Right now, with rates as higher as they are, 7-8%, the people that are buying the same price home are spending $4,250 a month. So if you look out there and wonder why there's not a ton of real estate transactions, another piece of that is because 70% of the people in Rancho Cucamonga that have a mortgage have a rate that's under 4%. Let me say that again. 7 out of 10 people that have a mortgage rate in Rancho Cucamonga have a 30-year fix that's under 4. So if you're looking at someone who wants to sell their home and buy another one, and mortgage rates are 7-8%, you understand why maybe trading out of a $3,150 home into a $4,250 home at the same price on your same street is probably not that attractive of an idea.
Not at all.
So you understand why a lot of transaction counts are down. Here's some, as I kind of get into more of the economics, questions asked often. I've been to a ton of economic lectures. And so I've kind of distilled what I've heard, and it resonates with me. And that's about the coronavirus pandemic. It's about the economy that came out of that. We heard the word supply chain disruption till we're blue in the face. The fact that you can't really buy things and get them immediately accessible, the prices went up so much that it's just tough to spend the money in your wallet and get anything in your shopping cart, right? And the reason is the negative economic effect of coronavirus for our country on the whole cost us about $1.2 trillion. That's what the economic devastation level of putting in dollar quantities from the impact of coronavirus. The amount of money the Federal Reserve pumped into our economy to cure that $1.2 trillion deficit was over $6 trillion. So we have a $1.2 trillion problem, and we spent over $6 trillion trying to solve that problem. And so you see everyone, businesses, individuals were so flush with cash that they went out and they started spending like crazy. One of the companies that I do some work for is called K&N Engineering. They make aftermarket air filters for cars. And what they never thought was gonna happen a month into coronavirus, as we were all really worried, is what was gonna happen to their sales. Well, guess what? Their customers, their clients, people that had disposable income because they've just got their first, second, or third stimulus check, that can't go to work, that were sitting at home, that had a car, liked cars, guess what they did? They got online and they said, guess what? I want to buy a K&N air filter because this is a modification I can do in my driveway, and we're going to use the stimulus check to buy it. So all of a sudden, this company that was on the verge of being in big trouble like the rest of the world, all of a sudden is getting more orders than they've ever had in their lives from people who are sitting at home scrolling on their cell phones saying, I'm going to buy an air filter modification for my car, right? And so that's what happened when you jam $6 trillion into a $1.2 trillion hole. And so that, of course, lifted prices on everything artificially, because all of a sudden we'll have more money in our pockets than we know what to do with. The national savings rate is higher than it's ever been in modern history. And so now the challenge is coming off and coming down from that. And as they wean back and take away that stimulus money, what happens now? Because a lot of people in my circle, probably yours too, said that they've been thinking about a recession coming since 2015 and 16. And what's happened to the price of real estate since 2015 and 16? Pretty unbelievable, which is one of the reasons that I think it makes it really tough to forecast our markets going forward. So my job as a real estate agent, I'm also a general contractor, is trying to give good advice to my clients. And what I tell them is if you can afford a mortgage, you find the right home for you, it works, it meets your needs, then guess what? Rates won't be at 8% forever, right? We have some of these new programs that have the 2-1 buy downs where you get a lower rate this first year, a little higher the second year, a little higher the third year. Know that when you get into a 30-year fixed, eventually those rates are going to come down. So if you can find and sell the property to someone that meets their needs, know that they've got to be able to sustain it, but eventually know that they're going to refinance and they're going to take advantage of a much lower mortgage payment. Transitioning real quick, a couple things about Rancho Cucamonga. One of the most exciting projects, which is going to mean something to all of us, is the Brightline West high-speed rail project that's working its way through federal approval right now. We're going to know in probably September, October, whether we're going to get funding for it. And the very short story is, It's a public-private partnership between Brightline West, a private company, the state of California, and the state of Nevada. And what they're going to do is they're going to build a rail platform, a high-speed rail platform that starts with its origin above, second floor above the Metrolink station in Los Angeles. It's going to go up over the commercial and residential real estate on 7th Street up to the 15 freeway. It's going to come down in between the lanes, wind all the way up through the Cajon Pass, have a stop at Apple Valley, and going to move between 140 and 160 miles an hour all the way to Las Vegas. And it's going to stop at Raiders Stadium of all places. So, why is that exciting? One, it's a new mode of transportation to get to Las Vegas. That's great. But not just that, because the rail platform sits on top of Metrolink, that means there's seamless transition between both those lines, which means you can either get on a train in Union Station or Redlands, get to Rancho Cucamonga, get on a train and get all the way to Vegas, which is incredible. You can fly to Ontario International Airport, jump on a train and get to Vegas now. And here's what I think may be one of the most exciting things, is the fact that we're going to have commuter stops during the week in Apple Valley, and I think there's plans for Hesperia as well. This has the opportunity to take people out of their cars on the 15 freeway, put them on a train, get them to Rancho Cucamonga, and take the commuter rail into Los Angeles.
That's amazing.
Talk about perhaps the very first traffic relief we could see on the 15 freeway. And not just that, people coming on the 15 freeway, they're going to get off at the Metrolink platform, now are not going to get on the 60, the 10, or the 210 to go into LA. They're going to get on the Metrolink. So I think that could be one of the best parts of this train that now gets you to Vegas to party if you want to. Now you're going to be able to get to work a little bit faster.
That's amazing.
So that's something we're really excited about. It's a $7 to $8 billion project, and if the construction runs the way we hope it to, it'll be open before the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. So pretty exciting stuff. Another thing we're excited about is the Sanctity Hotel, which is a Hilton luxury brand hotel, has broken ground in Rancho Cucamonga, and it's the very first luxury hotel development in the Inland Empire. Why is that a big deal? Because for many, many years, the coastal market said that the Inland Empire cannot sustain a high-end luxury hotel, and finally having a construction company willing to finance and a big flag like Hilton willing to put this deal together shows that the Inland Empire is an economic powerhouse that has the potential to have really nice stores, luxury goods, high-end hotels, and that we have the people that can fill them. So if we can prove this hotel can work in the IE, that means a lot more economic infrastructure development and dollars flowing into our region, which is really good for all of us. Last thing I want to talk about is what I've learned in politics, and I started out saying I've done a lot more things wrong than I've done right. One of the best informal educations I ever got in my life was 2017, 2018, when I first ran for office. I knocked on 11,700 doors, took me about a year and a half, talked to about 4,500 people, and what an incredible education that was. As a real estate agent, you know, some people choose door knocking as an opportunity to go out there and meet new clients and to prospect. I was never a huge door knocker. It is, you know, like a motto said, it's scary to be behind the mic sometimes. It's scary to walk up to someone's home who's a stranger, knock on their door and ask them to vote for you in a popularity contest. Sometimes you knock on the door when the baby's sleeping. Sometimes you knock on the door when someone's in the middle of dinner. Sometimes you knock on the door and see someone who's at the very end of a bad day. And so those are all things that help you grow, but also how to manage some of those what feel like crises in a moment. And it teaches you how to talk to people. It teaches you how to listen to people if you're really good at it, which is probably took me, you know, a year to figure out how to not just be so scared and listen to my own voice, to actually take the feedback that I was asking from people. And so that's something I'm really grateful for. Also, part of this talk too is understanding the different layers of government. If you have the federal, that's out in Washington, D.C., right? You have the president, you have the U.S. Senate, you have the legislature, the Congress. Then you have the state level, you have like the governor, you have like Senator Morell here, you have the assembly. And so what those two groups do is during the week they commute. The federal commute to Washington, D.C., and the state commute up to Sacramento. So every day, I'm sure Mike has many stories on Southwest Airlines where he would get on the flight in Ontario and fly up to Sacramento and be gone most of the week. Then you have the county that sits under that, Riverside and San Bernardino County. You have your board of supervisors. Then you have your individual city councils, like the mayor back here. And then you have your special districts that below that. One thing that's unique about being what's called local elected, which when I mean that's the county, that's the city, that's the special district, is that you get to interact with your constituency every single day. You don't fly 300 or 3,000 miles away. And so you get a lot of chance to hear, talk to, understand what people are interested in. You get a lot of personal feedback on what people's opinion of are you, your last vote, and the thing that you said at your last council meeting. So that teaches you to make sure that, that you're careful, conscious, and that you choose your words in a way that people interpret them the way that you mean them to interpret them, which I said takes a lot of practice. One of the challenges in government right now, it seems like that we have a huge gap between what I say is kind of us and them as we look at the world. Kind of rational and reason versus emotional. What I mean by that is, if you asked me today, I would tell you it is easier to fool somebody than to convince them that they have been fooled. You think about that for a second. What I'm talking about is people who take emotional positions on situations and get so ideologically boxed into a corner that they're unwilling to engage with you in a debate about an issue. One thing that I share with people that I think is really important to remember is that reasonable minds can in fact disagree. And I think that's really, really important to remember. And part of the thing that's important in doing that, and you've heard this a million times, but putting yourself in another person's shoes. And for me, what that means is when I meet someone who sometimes comes up to me to give feedback, and believe me, when I tell you in government, people normally are giving you feedback because something is wrong, not because of how excellent they think you are. And when I'm getting that feedback, what I gotta remember is this is a mom with 3 kids who's maybe been tearing her hair out all day because the kids have been misbehaving. Maybe this is a person who spent half the day in the hospital with a family member who's really ill. Maybe this is a person that has lost their job and is struggling economically. Maybe this is a person who needs help. Maybe it's a person who has mental health issues and struggles. And if I can step back for a minute like that and not listen to people, how they're talking to me, but what they're saying and what they need, and I can soften myself, soften my heart, and talk to them, a lot of times I'm able to get some level of a breakthrough with them where we can communicate and they kind of come out of their shell and they can see my side of it and I can see their side of it and I can look at the issue through a different lens. And so what's a practical application of that? Well, maybe as you're driving down the street and there's someone on the left of you and they've got their blinker on and they're trying to get in front of you, maybe you let them in instead of speed up, right? How much trouble do we have with road rage? I can tell you there's a lot right now because people don't seem to have the patience or they have a cell phone in their hand. So showing those people grace is really important in the way that we become an agent of change, like Amato talked about. Another way is someone like Mike Morell, who for me was someone that took his time when I first ran for political office and said, guess what, I'm not just gonna, send you a nice text message and give you a slap on the back. I'm gonna invest some of my time, help tutor you, help develop you in a way that'll make you successful and ultimately make this community successful. So if you have the opportunity to be a mentor to someone, take your time to do it right, because I can tell you some of my most vivid memories and ways that have shaped me my entire life came not only from my parents, but my parents' friends, my baseball coach, my football coach. And I can still hear them. If some of you played sports, do you still hear what your coaches said to you when you were young? Remember that. And remember that you all have that power to affect someone else every single day. Whether your personal change needs to be eating a little more salad and a little less steak. My embarrassing story is at the end of walking 11,700 doors, I was 2 pant sizes smaller, which was phenomenal. After being elected for 2 years, I was 3 pant sizes bigger, right? And I enjoyed stress eating. And it got so bad that eventually I snored so loud my fiance couldn't sleep anymore. And that was an extremely humbling moment for me. And I'm 15 pounds lighter as of 3 months ago.
Congratulations.
Things like that keep you really humble. And it's a good thing to not be ashamed of those, to share them, help other people know that there's other people in the same boat that you are. The last thing I'll leave you with right now, and maybe the most important thing, is embracing discomfort. If you want to be a real agent from change, if you want to change your life, it's not about doing things that's easy. So what I'd ask you all to do is pick 5 things that make you uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. That could be handing people business cards. It could be cold calling. It could be eating better than you used to eat. It could be getting in bed earlier or waking up earlier. Pick 5 of those things and then circle the ones that would make your life better. And then pick one of those 5 things that you circled and say, that's what I'm going to concentrate on. I'm not going to change my entire life overnight, but I'm going to pick one thing that makes me uncomfortable, and I'm going to make a conscious effort to do it. For me lately, it's more salads. For me looking back, it's exercise. For me looking way back, it's walking into a room and not immediately retreating to the edge of it and hiding from everyone. Pick one of those things that makes you uncomfortable, because that's how you will change your life. It's not going cold turkey on everything in one day. It's picking one thing and saying, this is going to make my life better. And that's the first step towards finding a road that'll get you on the path, not a straight line, the path to more success. And that's what's worked for me. Thank you so much.
You know, being a best-selling author, obviously I love to read. And one of the things that I learned is the wisest man that's ever lived, he was asked by the divine, whatever you want, I will give it to you. And he asked for 3 things. One of them was knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And Network of Champions Now, that is my endeavor, to bring people of this caliber to make a change in you guys, but don't just do like Ryan said. Be active. Perhaps some of us need to eat a little bit more salad and less meat. I get that, thank you. I am very, very humbled, and I like to ask if you guys can please stand up. Out of respect for someone that has major changes, the way we live, the way we benefit. And I'd like to ask Senator Morrell to please come on up. Let's give him a big, big round of applause. Thank you. Sir, I am honored. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Well, you may sit. This microphone's a little high. Not sure how to adjust it here. So anyway, I like what Ryan said. Those were nice compliments, but he didn't tell you the whole story. I said, Ryan, listen to everything very carefully what I tell you. Do the opposite and you'll be a success. And that's exactly what he did. So anyway, well, I'm here today. I want to thank Armando for allowing me to be here and speak. He's given me permission to, granted me permission to choose my own words and my own thoughts, and I appreciate that. And one of the things I'd like to share is I certainly don't have all the answers to life, but I have strong opinions that I will share with you today. So I hope you'll receive them. I want to just share a couple of things. When my children were younger, I cautioned them as they listened to their father. I said, I'm confining my mind to only 3 subjects that I really enjoy: politics, faith, and business, sales and marketing, and that kind of thing. So I said, I don't want to turn you off as a father, but those are probably the only three things you're going to hear from me. So just try to use your filter and trust God. And Mike Morrell doesn't want you to go into politics or go into religion or go into business. Go where God wants you to go. But all three of them, one ended up in religion, another politics, and they're all in the faith. So that was kind of good. So anyway, I want to share with you today some of the things that I hope will help your lives, because those three things, as I said, I want to talk about today is religion, politics, and business. And so I hope I can build some value into your life and that of your loved ones. And I just humbly request that before God that I'll do a good job for you and hopefully impact your lives. And so a couple of things I want to share. Some of my successes I did was able to open and found three companies. Founded three companies that ended up going pretty well. A property management company, a lending company, and then a real estate company. And those were great times. I really enjoyed the people I worked with. But when I was younger, I wasn't sure how my life was going to turn out because I had sort of a learning disability. I thought it was a disability. Some of the teachers just thought I was stupid, you know. And I say that because it turned out I had a hard time reading. I had a growth in the back of my eye nobody discovered till I was about 9 or 10 years old. So it was hard for me to read. I'd skip down lines. So the teachers wanted to flunk me a couple of times. And I remember my dad thought it was a stigma, so he didn't let the teachers flunk me, thank God. But anyway, when I finally had that corrected, I could see I had better than 20/20 vision, so it was all right. But I didn't run towards relearning or knowledge. I ran towards sports, and then when I was a teenager, ran towards girls and became an alcoholic too along the way, a little bit of an alcoholic. And so I remember one principal said, someday your name's going to be Mud and not Mike Morrell. So I didn't always have a good reputation either amongst some of my elders. A little bit of a troublemaker, but nothing really that bad, right? And then another thing too, you know how some parents say, they tell their kids, we want you to be the first to go to college in our family. Well, my parents didn't graduate from high school. My dad, after World War II, went back and got his high school degree. But the bar was set pretty low for Mike Morrell. My dad just said, the bar was make sure you're the first to graduate from high school, you know. And so, and I did. And he even said, I don't care if you get a C- as long as you graduate. So again, the bar was set low, and I took advantage of that. But as I entered my 20s and you start getting into the work market, I really felt like, oh man, that was probably a mistake not to read and learn and listen in school. But in the meantime, I was invited to, by this nice looking young lady to hear this guy speak who had played for the Oakland Raiders as a linebacker, and I love sports. And so I wanted to hear him. Little did I figured out when I got there he was a pastor. And anyway, she kind of tricked me, but it worked out okay because that's sort of when I discovered faith in my life, and I transitioned, as Armando says, to trying to find those divine laws that hopefully bring organization and peace into our life. And so I did that. I committed my way to God, and doors started opening up. I remember one older gentleman, I don't remember who he was, but he actually came to me, and he was very cautious on how he worded this and very sensitive. But he said, I can tell you know, like you struggle probably intellectually. And so let me give you some suggestions, right? That was sort of hard to take for someone to kind of tell you you're not that bright. But anyway, he was well-meaning, and he said, you know, Solomon wrote the book of wisdom, and it's called Book of Proverbs. And he says there's 31 months, 31 days in a month, and 31 chapters of Proverbs. They take you maybe 3 to 4 minutes to read. Read a chapter each day corresponding to the day of the month. So if today's the 25th, you read Proverbs 25. And what I discovered in there, it was wisdom from on high on how to be married, how to raise good kids, how to get along with people, how to distinguish between what a fool looks like and a wise person. And so all sorts of good advice. But the one I was attracted to, I highlighted over 100 scriptures on how to make money, you know. And the second thing I realized, 19 times it says in those Proverbs that knowledge is a good thing. It'll help you prosper and preserve your life. So that's when I sort of took up actually reading books and trying to catch up all those years I fooled around. And I think I got caught up. But anyway, I enjoyed those scriptures, and I just want to share a few of them that have really impacted my life on making money. And I want to later tell you that money is not the object of why I'm here today. There's things much more important than making money, but that's the first subject I want to talk about, just to try to help build some value into your life. But the greatest scripture that I think I found says, in a multitude of counselors there's victory. And so I would try to find, whenever I made a move in real estate or mortgage where I was going to spread, open something bigger, I would ask 3 or 4 of my friends who were smarter than me what their opinion was. And if they all said no, then I would drop it. If they all said yes, what was really interesting, usually 2 or 3 of those guys would also say, let me give you a couple ideas that I think will enhance in the direction you're going. So it paid huge dividends for me to actually follow those things. Other things too, scriptures remind you to work with a diligent hand, which is good. It even tells you not to co-sign, because it says if that guy doesn't pay, the bank will come and take your stuff. So there's some real practical things in there that I think we should follow that'll keep us out of trouble, as well as identifying foolish people's behavior so we don't hang around with them. And also, one of the things Proverbs talks about is instilling disciplines in your life, like working with a diligent hand means constant effort. And the reason I say that, there's one verse that really sort of I struggled with for years, and it's a man's hunger urges him on. And there's very few people in life that are hungry, you know, where they really want it. They give up way too easy, and sometimes when you give up, victory's right around the corner. But I think the thing is, for determination, you have to build a lot of disciplines in your life, and you have to stretch yourself. But it's well worth it, because again, as I overview on people who do succeed, they have a tremendous amount of determination, and they don't want to be stopped, and they go right through those barriers, over and through them, and they don't let people define them, and they don't let bad circumstances define them. Because one of the things in life I think perhaps Providence brings is you have to have trials to make you stronger. I had a consultant I hired years ago, and this isn't really the truth, but I love the saying. He says, whatever doesn't kill you should make you stronger and better, you know? And so trials will strengthen you. You could either give up or you push through them. And some of the most difficult trials in my life ended up being blessings in the long run. They taught me things, endurance, as well as maybe choosing my friends a little bit carefully. You've been there, huh? So anyway, so I hope those things sort of help. A good name is to be desired more than riches. And another thing on that, I just want to share one practical thing that I hope helped you. Most of you guys maybe know this, but this consultant I had ended up consulting with a bunch of companies. And the reason I hired him, he was consulting with the president of a company that's now $1 billion company a year. And I figure if he's giving this guy advice, and this man had stayed with him for 5 years, I'm going to try to hook up with him and at least stay for 3 months until I run out of money. But it ended up things worked out okay. But one of the things he introduced me to was key leading indicators. And I could talk about it for a week, but I think this was one of the things that really helped me excel in business. And the reason I mention that is going back to when I was about 22 years old, I went to a meeting, and this man says, dream your dreams big, write them down. Even if you don't think you're going to make it, try to dream who you can be and what you can be. So I actually sat down and worked backwards. What would I like to do? And I said, I really would like to be a politician to help save my country, right? But I really never thought I could ever make it to that. But to do that, I felt like I needed money. And to have money, I felt like I needed my own business. And I felt to have my own business, I needed to be able to only manage it about an hour to 2 hours a day to get free time up to walk a lot of doors. I didn't walk as many as Ryan did, but I did walk a lot of doors. And then I backed it up all the way to someday preparing how to speak and joining clubs to learn, as well as putting together a game plan to open a business, as well as my biggest goal that I wanted to achieve, and that was my 4th step, was if I could ever have enough courage to speak for a half hour on either politics or finances. And I thought if I ever got to step number 4 before I died, I would feel that God had fulfilled my life in a powerful way. Because that's really how insecure I was. I never thought I would open my own business. I never thought, you know, I'd make it to the Senate and those kind of things. But sometimes Providence has different doors and challenges, and we have to go through those, right? And so anyway, key lead indicators was one thing that really helped me free up my business. Jack Welch, do you remember him? He was a famous CEO of GE, thank you for that.
And he said if he understood his key leading indicators, 3 or 4 of them, of any business in America, he could run that business from a desert island. And I thought that was a pretty bold statement to make. Hey, I get better if you... I'm just warming up. Anyway, I came to believe that. And what key leading indicators are, you have to really measure everything in your office. How long it takes to close a loan, how long it takes to process a loan, every phone call that comes in, how many of your loan officers, what's their percentage on closing deals, because the ones that are weak, you have to either get rid of them or make them stronger. Anyway, you put all these things together, because they say most people never plan to fail, but fail to plan. But once you get all these metrics together and you figure it out, it'll lead you to a path, the 3 or 4 things that are best to run your business. And the best example that I can give you that you can visualize is that of a dashboard on your car. You have key leading indicators on there. One of them is you have this indicator that if it hits E, it means your gas is empty, right? And it hits F, it means it's full. So key leading indicator, if that hits E, it's very simple. You just go and fill your car up with gas. And that's how my businesses ended up running. And I wanted to know that was one of the greatest things, because it freed me up once I understood those 4 things that I needed to run my business. I could do that 1 hour to 2 hours a day. And then eventually when I did go to Sacramento, I was able to work maybe 2 hours a week just by phone and still run my business for 4 years. So if you ever get a chance to read some stuff on Jack Welch, he can explain those things to you. But it was something that really built value into my life that freed me up to and not work 80 hours a week. So anyway, that's that. Let me give a quote. Sir Winston Churchill, loved this guy, great man. He says, and this is for all of us, success is not final, failure is not fatal, and it is the courage to continue that counts. And so when we define success, I want to share another thing too. Have any of you guys heard, or you probably have, the 7 deadly sins? It's some of the greatest thinkers throughout the history. They said there's 7 sins that'll tank a person, right? Pride, greed, lust, avarice, gluttony, which by the way doesn't mean you eat too much. It just means you consume too much of the materialistic goods of the world. So forget the salads for those of you who want to have a hamburger, right? And so, but anyway, with slothfulness, I think was perhaps one of the most dangerous ones. And you know what simply means? People go through life and they never know why God put them here and what their purpose is on life. And then when they get older, there's a saying that older men often lead lives of quiet desperation. It's because they were working for something. When they get to the end of their age, they realize that their life didn't turn out, because you have to have meaning in life. Everything you did. I got in the mortgage business because I believe I was directed that way. I had some tough days, some tough months, but never a tough year. I enjoyed always what I did. I said if I would go more than 1 year in a business that I hated, I would get out of that business, because I know life's short. And so that's why having a purpose and where you're going is really a key thing. Because then you'll understand, if you need to make more money, you'll have to make more money because you want to achieve that goal. You may not, because again, there's things in life more important than money, right? And I'm going to talk about those a little bit later in my book. Family is more important. We can get to the end of our life and our family relationships aren't good. That's really bad, right? Because when your kids get older and if they neglect you and they're not doing well, those are heartbreakers. And we have a number of friends who their kids have turned out sort of that way, and they've sat on our couch and sort of lamented that they just wondered where they went wrong, because the culture out there today is very dangerous. It's not for us, it's against us. So we have to be sharper than that, but there are answers to that. So anyway, let me go to my second point, and that's exercising our civic responsibility on defending freedom, why we should get involved with politics. Early on, I've read, how many of you read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill? Good book. I've listened to Zig Ziglar tapes. I've gone to Zig Ziglar seminars, Brian Tracy, The Psychology of Closing. I loved all those things. And you know what they've said over the years? If you really want something bad enough, nothing can stop you. How many of you heard that? You've all heard it? Forgive me if you would. I'm here to dispel that myth today, ladies and gentlemen. There is something very serious that can stop you today. And that's an overbearing Marxist government, a despotic government who wants to turn this country around. They want to rule it by fear, and they have a hostile agenda against people in the free market. because they'd rather have servants and slaves than free-thinking people, which you are. And so we have an obligation to be involved and exercise our civic responsibility. And if you haven't read the Constitution or Declaration of Independence, those two documents are beautiful. Because here's what both of them start off with. The first three words of the Constitution says, "We the people." The founders didn't mean they the government, because the politicians are supposed to be our servants and not our masters. And they're telling us what to do today, creating all kinds of bureaucracies that keep the prices of home up. I've been working with the builders industry for many years, and before you can even build a home with all the permits and all the cred you have to go through the city, it might be $150,000 here in California before you can even start grading your lot. And that's different in other states. I talked to the CEO of Carl's Jr. a few years ago, and they were only going to build a handful of Carl's Jr.'s in California over the next 5 years, because it takes about 2.5 to 3 years when they buy that piece of land before they can erect and start selling hamburgers in California. 2 to 3 years. And in Texas, it's 3 to 4 months, because there's less bureaucracy, less red tape, and then it brings the cost down. Same thing. I want you to know, I was able to buy my first home at 22, and I bought a triplex, my first home at 23 and a triplex at 24. And that's not boastful. That was what America was like back 30, 40 years ago. It was a lot easier. Supply and demand. Prices didn't go up as much because supply and demand were almost even. Today, the supply's short and the demand's really high, and that drives the cost. And most of these problems is because we have governments that are they're robbing us, ladies and gentlemen. You've got government employees that used to work for in private sector, but they went to work for government because they want security. But today, it's become a big business. You have city managers making $300,000 to $700,000, and I won't go into all the other things. But they like the bureaucracy. They like all the permit fees they charge, because they can use more of that money for the city. So we, the people, have to take back our government. Ronald Reagan said this. Look at this analogy. The car is the government. The citizens are the driver. We're supposed to tell the car which way to go, not the opposite way. And then also the Constitution goes beyond just saying we the people. It says a government of, by, and for the people. And in the first time in human history ever, our Declaration of Independence, a very founding document, in the first paragraph says, governments, to secure these rights, governments are instituted amongst men, deriving their just powers. They get their powers from the consent of the government. And that means we the people. So if we're going to preserve our financial well-being, if we're going to preserve how it used to be in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and even the 80s, we have to actively engage in that and vote for people that are going to support the people and who are going to reduce bureaucracy, as well as they're going to allow parents into the classroom and let parents decide what their kids should look at. Don't you agree? Yes. Some of you agree. Yeah. So a couple other things too. California, we have lost a lot of people. Hewlett Packard, Oracle, Tesla, and Toyota, 500,000 people left. And I kind of gave you a lot of reasons why, but I have drawn a line in the sand, plant the flag. I love California. Joni and I were born and raised here, so we actually still have some friends, which is kind of neat. We're an hour from the beach, an hour from Palm Springs, an hour and a half from Big Bear. I mean, why are we running? We should make those guys who are creating all these problems, right? That's what people who love their country do. And so I encourage you to get engaged, because I think there's a lot of hope for California. I see a lot of things that are happening under the surface, and I'm hoping things continue that we can turn this state back around how it used to be, for free enterprise and putting the citizen number one and our kids number one rather than government. So, and I think the best people to do that, and by the way, I was asked to recruit candidates when I was a senator, and I always wanted to go after business owners. I just felt like they had common sense, especially the ones that made money, because it's very difficult to make money these days. So I felt the ones that I saw in the Senate who helped and who were common sense and very fair in their thinking were former business owners and entrepreneurs. So I encourage any of you, if you want to talk to me about that, I'll do my best to try to give you some kind of direction. So let me share sort of the last thing. And this is a book I wrote when it's The Road to Restoring the Family, because A strong family will make for a strong America. Frederick Douglass said this: it's better to build a stable family, or it's easier to build a stable family than it is to repair a broken man. And he's right. The majority of men in prison come from fatherless homes. Young women who get in prostitution typically have daddy issues, and the list goes on, from drugs and everything else. And so it's good that we remember that. And also, the greatest joy in life, one of the greatest, is making money and saving money and everything. But something higher and more noble than that is the relationship we have with our kids. And if our kids are not doing well, we won't do well. Our daughter Kristen asked me one time, Dad, if you had 10 kids and 9 of them were doing just fantastic as citizens, but you had one that wasn't doing real well, where would your emotions be? And I said, it'd be with the one who's not doing well. And so it's important that we do everything we can. So what I did in writing this book, I didn't use my wisdom. I used the wisdom of those with a superior intellect than Mike Morrell. And what I mean by that is I looked to the Declaration of Independence. That second paragraph starts off that we hold these truths to be self-evident. Well, the paragraph before that says, here's how we discover self-evident truth. It's through the laws of nature, and nature's God, meaning God places into human nature and history the moral law and self-evident truth, so we can be confident by looking at those things. So when it came to politics, I stood on the shoulders of the Greeks, who were sort of the home of politics, Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates, and I gleaned from their wisdom, and I interjected the scriptures where they were appropriate. I did the same thing on issues of spirituality. I looked at Thomas Aquinas, Augustine, C.S. Lewis, everyone in between, and then brought in the scriptures. And I talk about marriage. I have 2 chapters right now on education, which we're in a bad state of education. At one time, the classical thinkers' education was molding together the intellect and the soul. And today our modern education system does neither. And so there's some good, I think, some good advice in here. I even wrote a chapter, it's only 4 pages, but it talks about key leading indicators as well as the difference between investing and speculating. And I got that from Benjamin Graham, who wrote a book years ago that made, it was Warren Buffett's favorite book on how to invest. So I just took some of his thoughts and put it in this book. So I tried to do everything I could, not just financially, but spiritually, morally, and marriage, and on education to help my kids, who are going to pass this book down to my grandkids so that they'll prosper. I wanted to throw as many chips in their corner as I could so that they can increase their percentages of succeeding in a very difficult world which we're in. So let me kind of start summing up some of my questions, or some of the things about trying to strive for success and great things. I want to close with these thoughts. As you do that, you will have critics. If you guys have critics, you know, people say you can't do this. And the reason why, they knew you when you were young, you probably did some things that were dumb, so they, you know, they remember those things. But here's the sad thing. Some of those closest to you, often family members and friends, will be the ones that'll sort of put a crimp in your dream and give you a lack of confidence that perhaps you can't succeed. When I was running for office, a gentleman, he was a California state senator, well-meaning guy. He meant it. He wasn't trying to hurt my feelings. He told me I probably shouldn't run because if I got in the race, I would be the 7th person in the race. And he said, the only case for you I can make, Mike, is you're going to finish either 6th or 7th in that race. Because I was running against the mayor with the largest population, and he was a doctor who had money coming from the pharmaceutical companies, coming from the nurses, coming from the doctors, coming from the hospital associations. And I beat him by 11 points.
How about that?
So anyway, I cut this out years ago for my wallet, something that Theodore Roosevelt said, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know, it's called 1910. 1910 he wrote it. And I carried it for about 30 years, and I even gave my sons when they were teenagers, they're in their 30s now, one of these cards. And they I thought they kind of blew me off, you know, but now I look back, they were just teenagers and they were trying to act cool. So we were back in New York, or back in DC visiting the boys, because that's where they live. And I'll leave some of these up here if you want. And we started talking about that as we went out for dinner, and I realized both of them had this memorized, and they carry it in their wallet too. So it's special to me. Whenever I got in those things where you had people criticizing, I would refer back to the wisdom of Theodore Roosevelt. So I hope you'll appreciate his words. Here's what he says: "It is not the critic who counts, nor the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in an arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcomings, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasm, the great devotions, and who spends himself in a worthy cause, and who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails daringly, greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." I want to thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity.
What an honor. You know, I have.
John Mike.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
I had heard some of the best speakers in the world. I have just lived a privileged life. And today's message is by this young man and Mr. Morrell. They rekindle that feistiness that I've always had, and you know, to do big things. And I accept the challenge, right, Mr. Morrell. And I always believe in having a spirit of gratitude. And this whole event would not be possible without our cast. We have our photography and videographer, Mr. Mike Olsen. He's part of our cast. Give him a big round of applause. Behind the scenes, we have our sound engineer, Benny Hernandez. Let's give Benny a big round of applause. And then for all our marketing materials, we have Sergio, who's one of the largest printing companies. And then our event planner, Claudia Lopez, working behind the scenes, making sure that everything is placed. Thank you. And then this gentleman, he's my brother. He's used to do the Emmys, the Oscars, and really, I have to believe in the divine, because he put him in my life to help us put this event together. He makes it look like very easy, but if you look on yesterday and you see it today, completely different. That's Mr. Jose Luis Hernandez. Thank you, sir. And director behind the scenes, Adriana. She's right now in Colombia. Her mother had a surgery in her back, so she's there making sure that she's taken care of. And you know, we just want to continue serving the community. And I'd like to ask Claudia if she can come up here, and we're going to give away a couple of gifts. We have a gift from People Helping People. Is this it? Yeah, Myra. You want to draw? Somebody's going to win something from Myra Life Insurance. Cherise Blalock. Cherise. She always wins. Thank you. Then we have from our very good friend John. He's giving $100 gift plus a pen.
Christian Orellana.
And I'd like to ask our mayor, Mr. Ulises Cabrera, to come up with a relief already?
Yeah.
He left, okay. Not a problem, but this particular gift is on behalf of Network of Champions Now, Amado Hernandez. and it's a Hewlett Packard computer. Where's Consuelo? Where are you? Oh, okay. Consuelo, come on up. There's something that has been brought up and put upon my heart, and that is digital equality. What is digital equality? Our politicians will tell you, and Ulises Cabrera has brought it up to the forefront of my mind. We have to go for obviously and be advocates for home ownership, but without jobs, without industry, nothing happens. And digital equality is if we don't take care of our underserved communities and we don't give them access to the internet, if we don't give them the tools to connect to the internet, and we don't give them the literacy, then we're going to have a lot of chaos. A lot of this can be prevented. I asked Consuelo if she knew someone that she could give this gift to. The lady, she could not come, but tell us about it.
I think she's here.
Okay,
Stella
good.
Orbalan, are you in the? She can come over. When Amado talked to me about it, and I asked the Lord to direct me to whom to give it to. I had a couple of people in mind, but she came stronger. and I asked her if she had a computer, and she goes, everything I had to do, I do it at the library, because we don't have a computer at home. She had kids, and in school and everything. So this is a vision and a mission and an action on behalf of Mr. Amado Hernandez. And I'm very honored to be part of it. I appreciate your friendship. And it gives me nothing but great honor to give this to you.
Some of you might say, well, Amado, you got money, why don't you do 10 or 100, okay?
We need donors.
Guys, it's not the big things. When I was listening to Mr. Morrell, it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. And if we don't start taking care of those little things, we don't pay attention, somehow all of us, we all want to be multimillionaires. But we don't want to, we want to have the body and shape like my son Robert that exercises every day, but we're not willing to pay the price. And I just want to say, and I'm bringing, cognizance to you guys, bringing somebody like Ryan, someone like our senator, because the direction that we're going, guys, is not good. And we can blame the politicians, we can blame this, we can blame that, but it all starts with us, self-dominion, self-government. And I just want to say that I am humble. I want to thank each one of you guys for being here. Normally, we have a book signing. What I'm going to do is, there's a lady that she takes care of the elderly. Norma, she sells insurance. Anyway, she takes care of the elderly and south of the border. And this lady, probably half of her money she gives away. So if you guys want to give a donation for the book, whatever it is, I would give that money, 100% of that money to her. I want to make a difference. Also, those that want to, today I am yielding this to our senator. If somebody wants to take photos or get the book autographed, please do. And would you like to say something in closing?
Sure.
The floor is yours.
Oh, no. Well, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming, and it's an honor for everybody and each of you guys. And what Mr. Amado is doing right now is trying to make a difference. And I know everybody here, we have a different mentality, so let's make it happen.
Yeah.
By the way, Consuelo is very engaged with the development of Moreno Valley, and she's someone that is very, very connected. And she's someone that I always call and says, is there anything that we can do for you? Anytime I have requested anything, they have always come through. We want to thank you. And without any further ado, I'd like to thank each one of you guys. I hope that you guys found value in being here. We have people that want to network with us. Our videographer, this video, they're literally hitting all over. We're going to grow this project. We're going to make it grow. One of the things that I changed my narrative. Right now, I belong to a network where I'm a partner. We have about 1,100 agents, about 70 offices. But about 10 months ago, under my broker's license, I have about 60 agents. But about 10 months ago, I changed my narrative, and I want to go to where I want to have 300 agents. Now, you might say, why 300? When you read, like my fellow friends here, there's a magical number in 300, and that comes from the Roman Empire. And as I was traveling to Sacramento, all the buildings, everything, they pretty much come from that era. All the West comes from that kind of mentality. I went to Washington, the same thing. So I am looking, I'm 60, I just need 240 agents and I'm gonna hit my goal, okay? I believe that I can do it, but what is your goal? And how can we help you achieve your goal? The connections that we have, the connections that we're getting, they're here to help you. But life is not just about you, it's about serving. Because it also says that when the tree doesn't give any more fruit, to cut it and throw it in the fire. We still have a lot of life, so let's do it. Hello friends and colleagues. Today I am here with one of our sponsors, someone that came in after our first event and he said, Amado, you don't need to put my name, you don't need to advertise me, you don't need to do anything. I want to be part of this event, this changing the landscaping in the networking and business community. And today I'm happy to introduce my very good friend. John, tell us about your insurance. Tell us about what you do, sir.
Well, I'm with All Solutions Insurance in Moreno Valley there. We do auto, home, health, commercial insurance, trucking insurance there. We've been there since 95 there. We're doing great. And, all I can say is I'm just really happy to be friends with Amado.
Thank you. Yeah.